interesting. How do you think you were able to turn what might have been your ordinary life into something that was interesting enough for something?
I will tell you that is an outstanding question. My answer is counterintuitive. It is true. So to make a book that is the most universal, you want to be as specific as possible. I was writing about National City, right next to the border. Well, I gave all these details about the recycling plant, the kids that were there, the baseball field. This is what the community looks like. It's kind of run down, it's trashy. Well, if I told that in a more general way, because I thought it'd be more universal, then I'm kind of hedging my bet. I'm not really telling anyone's truth. And growing up in a really predominantly Mexican-American community, you know, I didn't really see that experience in the curriculum. And so it's one of those things where you kind of want to tell stories that are going untold.
For example, there's so many books on starting a company these days. You literally walk into a library and there are like 20 of them. So how do you think that you stood out? What do you think that?
Well, but my book was written before there were 20 of them. So.
Okay, so you were just early there.
Yeah. I was early, yeah. Like, you know, I wrote a book about social media. Well, now there's, you know, 1,000 books about social media. I just happened to be earlier.
How do you differentiate yourself enough to be noticed by a potential publisher or like an agent?
This sounds like very blasé, but not blasé. It sounds like a cliche because it's something that agents say a lot, but I think it's true. You write a really, really good book. It itself is compelling, and part of that compelling story might be you being like, I'm a physician, or I am a farmer, and I wrote this. I have no writing credits, but I wrote this incredible book in my spare time. Like that in itself is as compelling and interesting to people as, you know, I have all of these. There was a book that came up this year or last year called, I believe, Cherry, and it's by a guy who's a novel, and it's by a guy who's a bank robber. And he's in prison right now, right? So he doesn't have like a ton of fancy writing credits. But he is.
I'm sure, especially for us, like high school students, it's harder for us to, you know, decide whether our writing is authentic when our imagination is like more vivid than our experience. You know what I mean? Because right now we've not really seen or like gone through much. We don't have interesting, you know, things we've been through, like not necessarily as many as, you know, somebody who's older. So yeah, generally a lot of our writing is reliant on what our imagination rather than what we've experienced.
But there's nothing wrong with that. And again, but also, you know, the experience of being a teenager is so far removed for somebody from like my age. You know, I'm in my mid 40s now. So, you know, and there were a lot of authors who write, you know, YA books featuring teen protagonists. But the fact is, you know, they have to be authentic too, and it's work for them, because being a teenager is very different now than it was 30 years ago. As you can imagine.
That's a great point. Yeah.
Yeah. So just because you're younger than other older, more established writers doesn't mean you don't have your own voice to bring to it and your own experiences that are relevant and worthy.